Welcome to Chronicle Radio. The Empire breathes, and we report. It is the fourth day before the Kalends of September in the 871st year since the founding of Rome. I'm Anderson Revers, transmitting live from the Palatine Overlook above the Tiber. The air is dry, cypress-scented, and rich with imperial certainty. Below me, banners ripple from the Senate House, the red gold of empire fluttering beside marble columns that have stood since Caesar's ashes cooled. Rome is vast. She reaches from Britannia's mist to Arabia's furnace, and yet, for all her sprawl, her breath still rises from this forum. We begin with news from the Far East. Imperial forces under Legate Marcus Livius report the Battle of Hatra has ended in bitter stalemate. Parthian cavalry routed the first Roman advance under a storm of arrows, forcing a temporary retreat beyond the Tigris. Livius's second-in-command, Tribune Calvus, was slain during the withdrawal. His body was recovered, arrow-ridden, jaw shattered, wrapped in his own cloak. Emperor Trajan is said to be furious. Though publicly hailed as a triumph, the tone in the Curia. Julia has darkened. A closed-door meeting of the Imperial Council lasted until after moonrise last night. There are rumors, unconfirmed, that Trajan himself may journey east to take direct command. Meanwhile, at home, discontent simmers. The Aventine district has seen its third straight week of grain riots. What began with price complaints outside a bakery has grown into larger processions, mostly slaves and freedmen, chanting beneath the awnings of patrician estates. Yesterday, an attempt to breach a grain storage vault near the Via Appia led to 2 deaths. Urban cohorts dispersed the crowd, but tensions remain. Governor Silius has promised to investigate corruption among grain vendors, but many see it as empty gesture. A senator's son was spotted riding through the starving crowds in a chariot pulled by 4 silver-painted mares. His name is being withheld, but the city remembers.
Reporting now from the fortress of Argentoritum, deep in the Gallic frontier, this is Julian Hoglin. The northern air bites like iron here, and every breath tastes of distant snow. Roman soldiers dig in at dawn. Word came down yesterday that a Visigoth raiding party ambushed a patrol outside the forest of Versagus. 8 Romans dead, 2 captured. The survivors were marched back bloodied and stripped, carrying their fallen comrades on makeshift litters. One of the men had his eyelids burned away, alive. Commanders here are requesting reinforcements from Lugdunum, but none are expected before winter. The governor in Lutetia has redirected all supply funds toward his own city's new amphitheatre project. Morale here is brittle. There are whispers among the troops. They say the gods no longer guard the northern border.
It's 2:17 p.m. in Rome, and we bring you breaking news from the Capitoline Temple. The sacred flame of Vesta, keeper of the empire's divine protection, was extinguished this morning for exactly 3 minutes before it was relit by the youngest Vestal. Priests claim a sudden draft swept through the inner sanctum. But in the markets, citizens mutter darker interpretations. Some say it is a sign that the gods blinked, that the empire, at its peak, may already be in descent. Imperial astrologers have been summoned. We await their formal omens tonight. From the southern ports, a massive storm off Cyrene has battered grain fleets bound for Italia. 3 ships have sunk. 2 more are missing. Survivors who washed up near Alexandria claim the wind came not from the sea, but from the sky, a desert-born tempest that shattered the sails mid-hymn. Rome's grain reserves are now 14% below imperial quota. The Suburra district, already resties, is being monitored closely. Today, a baker was beaten to death outside his own shop after refusing to give credit. The Praetorian Guard remains stationed across key intersections, but fear is not in their armor, it's in the eyes of the people. We return now to the Senate chambers. This morning, a heated debate unfolded between Consul Falco and Senator Gracchus regarding the expansion of military levies in the southern provinces. The dispute reportedly turned physical. Falco's scroll was torn in half and hurled across the chamber, prompting an uproar among the senatorial ranks. The cause? A new proposal to draft an additional 3,000 able-bodied men from the province of Sicilia, citing rising piracy along the African coast. Gracchus argued the region has already been bled dry by conscription quotas. Falco countered that the security of Rome is worth more than Sicilian olives and whining. As the debate raged, onlookers say a single crow flew down and perched atop the Senate gate, squawking as the argument reached its height. Superstitious eyes widened. One senator left the hall entirely. It is unclear if the bill passed, but tensions remain high. No word from Trajan, yet.
From the scorched hills of Judea, I report under guard. This is Julian Hoglin. In the valleys outside Jerusalem, a Roman cohort has just returned from suppressing what they describe as a minor rebellion near Beth Shemesh. But make no mistake, brother, the aftermath is anything but minor. Charred huts, scorched fig orchards, and the stench of oil and blood fill the air. Local villagers say a Roman tax official was ambushed and killed last week, and in retaliation, the 12th Legion burned 2 settlements to the ground. The bodies of 30 men and a handful of children were nailed to the outer gateposts of the town. A message, carved crudely in Latin, was left behind. Let no blade rise where Rome treads. The governor of Judea has issued a statement calling for calm. But here on the ground, calm is a word choked by smoke.
It's 3:12 p.m. now, in Rome. And as the shadow of the Pantheon stretches across the Forum, a strange unease hangs over the city. We've received reports that a body was pulled from the Tiber this morning, near the Pons Fabricius. Male, early 30s, wrapped in scholar's robes. His hands were bound, carved into his back with a small blade. Truth cannot be silenced. The man has not yet been identified, but speculation suggests he may have been a teacher or scribe from the Athenaeum. No official statement from the Vigiles. However, a source inside the city guard confirmed the deceased had previously been arrested for inciting disobedience through verse. The people are beginning to talk. Poetry readings are being cancelled. Scribes are burning personal journals. The fear here is no longer of war or starvation. It is the fear of being seen knowing too much.
We shift to the northwest frontier. Reports from the banks of the Rhine indicate that entire Roman patrols have gone missing near the Black Forest. The 8th Legion has dispatched scouts, but the underbrush remains thick with frost and silence. One surviving auxiliary staggered into camp at midnight, eyes wide, feet blooded. He said nothing for an hour. Then one sentence. The forest swallowed them whole. Whether it was Germanic ambush, animal attack, or madness, the command here does not know. But something is changing in the air. Veterans speak of unnatural cold, of dreams they do not remember, only that they wake gasping. And even the Gallic merchants, usually bold and brash, now carry weapons between cities. Rome says the frontier is secure, but standing here, it feels like we're standing at the edge of the world.
The Palatine has fallen silent. No carriages, no shouted deals. The city holds its breath. As I sit above the Tiber, the smell of smoke from distant hearths curls through the wind. I overheard an old man this morning whisper to his grandson, "The gods have grown tired of us." Whether he meant the grain riots, the Senate violence, the Tiber bodies, or the distant dead in Judea, he didn't say. But Rome is listening. The temple bells ring heavier today. The augurs read entrails and scowled. The wine turned bitter in a tavern near the Suburra, and the barkeep declared it an omen. He poured it out into the street like blood. We are not a city in collapse, not yet. But something watches us. Something waits. It's 4:05 p.m. in Rome, and all eyes are on the sky. A rare storm is rolling in from the Tyrrhenian Sea, black clouds hanging low, laden with the promise of thunder and disruption. The Temple of Jupiter is preparing lightning wards. Superstition clings to every rooftop. Some claim the birds have vanished. Not a single pigeon in the Forum all morning. This hour we speak of the whisperings that gather behind closed doors. My sources within the equestrian order report that Emperor Trajan's health may be failing. The man has not been seen publicly in nearly 10 days. Unusual, given his usual visibility during Senate address and triumphal processions. A courier riding under imperial seal left the Palatine in great haste before sunrise. No one knows his destination, but his horse was changed twice between gates. The rumor. Trajan may be summoning a successor, or worse, may already lie on his deathbed. The news has not reached the common man. But the upper echelons already plan feasts, or funerals.
Here in Athens, Rome's duel of intellect and arrogance, something curious has begun to unfold. The philosophers are going quiet. The Stoics have left the Stoa. The Epicureans mutter among themselves. And the famed teacher Philonides of Antioch was found locked in his home, his writings burned, the man delirious from lack of sleep. He claimed, And this is from a student who spoke on condition of anonymity that he had heard the gods arguing in the wind. A mere week ago, this man delivered lectures on the rational soul. Now he throws salt across his doorway and refuses to drink water drawn after sunset. The people here have always held fast to reason, but when the teachers retreat into silence, the city begins to tremble.
Here in Athens, Rome's jewel of intellect and arrogance, something curious has begun to unfold. The philosophers are going quiet. The Stoics have left the Stoa. The Epicureans mutter among themselves. And the famed teacher Philonides of Antioch was found locked in his home, his writings burned, the man delirious from lack of sleep. He claimed, and this is from a student who spoke on condition of anonymity, that he had heard the gods arguing in the wind. A mere week ago, this man delivered lectures on the rational soul. Now he throws salt across his doorway and refuses to drink water drawn after sunset. The people here have always held fast to reason. But when the teachers retreat into silence, the city begins to tremble.
We go now to the burning air of Alexandria. The library has not caught fire, not yet, but tensions are thick as the desert. Yesterday, a street fight erupted between Roman legionaries and native scholars over a scroll deemed heretical by the governor. The text, titled De Ortu Tertii Solis, on the rise of a third sun, was discovered in the temple ruins of Karnak. It speaks of a celestial object that burns but casts no light, a harbinger of plague and imperial fall. The scholar who translated it has vanished. His quarters are sealed. The prefect of Alexandria has banned public discussion of the scroll, and yet handwritten copies are already being sold in alley markets. The people are growing restless, the scholars whisper, and above the city the wind is too still.
And here, at the heart of the empire, dusk begins to bleed into the marble. The lamps are being lit. The musicians are playing quieter. In the Subura district, 3 more grain carts were raided today. Not by thieves, but by mothers. No blades drawn, just bare hands, desperation, and a crowd too large for the guards to stop. One cohort stood frozen as a child crawled under the oxen and stole a full sack of bread. The officer in charge did not pursue. I spoke with a baker this afternoon. Gaius, 4th generation in his stall. His eyes were swollen, voice rough from flour and fear. Rome has seen hunger before, he said, but not like this. Not when our gods are silent. Anderson Revers. Still Rome, still holding the line. If this signal brings clarity in a time of dust, consider subscribing. It keeps the stories alive. It's 5:02 p.m. here in Rome, and the mood has soured with the weather. The storm that approached earlier now lashes the rooftops with thick rain and cracking thunder. The temple of Vesta is said to have lost flame briefly, only a minute, perhaps 2. But in this city that is enough to stir dread. The Vestals relit it at once, but by then the crowds outside were already praying aloud in the streets. Across the Aventine a crowd formed around a statue of Minerva. Not to worship, but to bind cloth over her eyes. One man shouted, "If the gods cannot see our suffering, then let them look away in shame." He was arrested immediately. I spoke briefly with a scribe from the Saturnalia office who said, "Off the record, there's something in the air. Not rebellion, not hope, just awaiting."
From the banks of the Seine in the Gallic city of Lutetia, known by some today as Paris, we hear troubling reports. Floodwaters have overrun the river roads, sweeping away 2 granaries and half of the northern wall. The cause? Unseasonal rains, they say, but the locals mutter older words, names for river spirits and forgotten gods. Superstition runs deep here. What truly unsettles the people, though, is this. Last night, the statue of Mars that stands at the eastern gate cracked across the chest, unprovoked. No thunder, no battle nearby, just silence. Then stone split. Priests have declared a test. Soldiers whisper, "It is a curse." And this morning, the commander of the local garrison was found in his quarters, alive but raving. "They've returned," he kept repeating. "The ones we buried before Rome was Rome." The healer prescribed quiet, but there is no quiet now.
Breaking news now. Panic in the northern districts. A fire has broken out in the fabric district. Early reports say it began near the dye vats and spread with terrifying speed. The vigils are on scene, but the wind is against them. Already 6 domus structures have collapsed. A crowd gathered as smoke poured through the windows. Several women were pulled from the fire by passing soldiers. One girl was seen shielding a dog beneath her cloak, crying as the flames circled. By dusk we may lose half the district, and the people are already asking, was this accident or warning? A banner left behind in ash reads only, "A new Rome rises from cinders." The Senate, of course, has made no comment.
Now to the east, in Antioch. One of Rome's crown cities, the streets are trembling beneath sandals and suspicion. A strange illness has taken root. Not plague, not fever, but something colder. Victims do not cough, do not boil. Instead, they forget, first their words, then faces, then their own names. It begins subtly. A merchant miscounting coin, a mother forgetting her child's name. Within days they no longer speak, they simply stare. A temple physician believes the illness follows the river's flow. Waterborne madness, he called it. But the old women of the market say it is the return of Lethe, the river of forgetting, breaking through from beneath. 5 cases yesterday, 19 today. The forum is quieter by the hour. Rome has not yet responded. Antioch waits.
I walk now through the Trastevere quarter, where the fishmongers used to shout and spill their silver catch like coins onto wet stone. Not tonight. The stalls are empty, the boats remain tied. It's the scent that hits first, not rot, but iron, heavy and raw. Someone spilled wine outside a bakery, and no one cleaned it up. A loaf sits uneaten in the gutter, as if the city forgot what bread was for. At the edge of the quarter, a child draws circles in the dirt, 8 of them. "One for each head of the empire," he says. I asked who told him. He just smiled and pointed upward. There was nothing there. But the sky is darker than it should be, and Rome feels lighter. As if something essential has already been taken and no one noticed. This is Anderson Revers. Still Rome. Still reporting. If these stories keep your fire lit, fellows, you can subscribe to our channel and help keep the signal alive. It's 6:06 p.m., and a strange quiet has settled over the Capitoline Hill. The evening prayers at the Temple of Jupiter have been cancelled for the first time in years. A priest was found unconscious beside the altar, eyes open, muttering in a forgotten tongue. He has not stopped speaking since. A small crowd gathered, some calling it a divine trance, others a curse. The city guards forced the onlookers back. No official statement has been issued. Meanwhile, a new decree has gone out from the Senate. All unusual religious gatherings are to be reported at once. The forum buzzes with unease. Even the doves are circling lower than usual, disoriented as if they too have lost their way. This hour feels stretched, unnatural, like the empire is holding its breath, and forgetting why.
From the distant shores of Massilia, modern Marseille, comes a curious tale. A merchant ship arrived this morning with all sails up, crew intact, and every one of them silent. They did not respond to port officials. They did not leave the ship. The captain was found in the galley, kneeling, eyes closed, hands folded in prayer to no recognizable god. When approached, he whispered, "We passed into the second sea." The salt did not sting. We heard singing. The harbour master has quarantined the ship. Priests have blessed the docks. No one knows what the second sea means, but nearby fishermen swear the tides have changed. The stars no longer reflect the way they used to.
Another fire, this time in the Aventine. It began near the home of Senator Varro, a known critic of the emperor's expansion into Dacia. Witnesses report seeing masked men carrying urns of oil. The blaze consumed 3 neighboring homes before the vigiles intervened. Whispers of sedition echo through the courts. Some claim Varro's house was empty hours before the fire. Others say he was dragged out screaming by men not wearing legion tunics. One servant who survived said, "They said they were not men, but guardians. They spoke Latin, but wrong. This is not just fire, fellows. This is something deeper, a fear that walks now with the crowd. Not of the emperor, but of each other. Rome begins to cannibalize itself."
To Hispania now. In Carthago Nova, a city built on ruins of conquest, the ground has begun to hum. At first it was dismissed. Local tremors, seasonal disturbances. But in the past 3 nights, the humming has intensified. It begins after sundown, lasts precisely 13 minutes, and ceases at midnight. Dogs bark until their voices crack. cattle refused to eat. A child was found curled in a jar storage room, repeating a single phrase. It's coming through the stone. The governor has ordered silence. No public gatherings, no mention of the sound, but the people already know, and they do not sleep.
And now, word from the frontier. A cohort returning from the Rhine reports entire villages gone. Not destroyed, gone. Foundations intact, food still warm in hearths, but no people, no signs of struggle, no footprints. A commander described it as if they were called away by something they couldn't refuse. One scout followed a trail of ashes that led to the edge of a cliff and vanished. Rome has seen strange disappearances before, but never entire settlements, never without resistance. The Legion does not know what to call it. The scribes are calling it the drawing. No further explanation offered. This is Anderson Revers. The lamps are burning lower tonight, and the wind carries more than rain. It's 6:52 p.m., and thunder is again rolling in over Rome, not from the sky, but from the people. Word spreads that grain rations are to be halved. The port at Ostia lies nearly barren, as storms have delayed inbound ships for over a week. The populace murmurs of hoarding. They blame senators, priests, even the emperor himself. A baker was nearly beaten to death this afternoon for refusing to sell his last 3 loaves. A mother offered her necklace, a family heirloom, in exchange for a sack of barley. More dangerous, however, are the speeches. Small gatherings in alleyways where ex-legionaries speak of forgotten republics, of justice long drowned. No names are spoken aloud, only symbols chalked on walls, a broken eagle, a silent tongue. Tonight, the vigils march with more torches than usual. But light doesn't calm hunger, it only shows its teeth.
From the jewel of Egypt, a strange plague of minds. In Alexandria, learned men at the library have ceased writing, not from fear, but from doubt. Scholars claim the stars no longer follow expected paths, that history itself is drifting. One scroll copied last week now reads differently. A historian's signature vanishes from a page she signed with blood. Entire sections of Cicero are said to rearrange themselves. A librarian sealed a chamber this morning, declaring, "The knowledge is sick, it spreads like rot. Burn nothing, but touch nothing either." At the harbour, a statue of Athena fell face first into the sea without provocation. The priests say it was an accident, but the seers say wisdom has left the building. And the people, they speak less now, not from fear, but futility.
Breaking news. The Forum has erupted in chaos. A senator, name withheld, was struck down mid-speech by a man dressed as a temple worker. The assailant shouted, "She weeps beneath the stones," before plunging a knife into the senator's chest. Guards reacted swiftly, but not before the crowd surged. 4 dead, dozens wounded. One elderly woman was trampled while trying to shield her grandson. The assassin was taken alive, but as they bound his hands, he smiled and said, "It's not me." I only opened the door. The Forum is now sealed off. The Senate has postponed all proceedings. Some say this was no political act, but a rite. Something ancient, older than even the Republic. And tonight, Rome holds its breath again.
Far north, from the frosted edge of the Danube, comes a tale of ice and disappearance. In the outpost of Vindobona, modern-day Vienna, soldiers stationed to guard the frontier have gone missing in rows. Not slaughtered, simply vanished. Their armour remains in tidy rows, helmets stacked, no signs of flight, no forced entry. The centurion who discovered the scene collapsed in terror. His report, scrawled on wax tablet, reads, "They answered something I couldn't hear. I watched their footprints walk away without them." The legate has issued silence, but the nearby village has begun rituals, singing old songs in dead languages. When asked why, a grandmother replied, "To keep the cold from noticing us."
In this hour of storm and silence, Rome prepares for something it cannot name. Torches now burn at every entrance to the Senate House. The Vestals have doubled their prayers. Children are being kept indoors. There is no law against laughter, and yet none echoes in the streets. One man wandered through the Forum this evening draped in burial cloth. He sang a lullaby as he walked, offering olives to shadows. When the guards questioned him, he said only, "I'm feeding what's coming. It may be madness, Or it may be the first sane thing we've heard all day. This is Anderson Revers. Still Rome, still breathing. It's 7:27 p.m., and Rome is ablaze. Not with fire, but with fear. Word of the Forum stabbing has spread faster than ink, and now torches march not just with the vigils, but with the people. In Subura, 3 temples were desecrated within the hour, statues broken, altars overturned, and graffiti daubed in blood-red paint. The gods sleep. The Senate lies. Some call it rebellion. Others call it prophecy. I call it what it is, rupture. Shops have shuttered early. A curfew is whispered, not enforced by decree, but by instinct. And on the Palatine even the guards watch the shadows now. Not for thieves, but for answers. The mood tonight is brittle as cracked marble. And brothers, when marble falls, it shatters hard.
To Gaul now, in Lutetia, the rising Gallic settlement we now call Paris, the harvest failed. Not from drought, not from pest, from something stranger. Fruit spoiled on the vine overnight, wheat blackened despite sun and rain. Livestock still live, but will not eat. The Druids say the land has been offended. Roman settlers laugh, or did until 5 of their children vanished last night from within locked homes. One was found at dawn, standing in a field, staring at a dead tree that hadn't been there the night before. She said, "It walked here." Locals have fled, but where, in a Roman world, does one flee? The empire touches every border now, and yet something still presses back.
Breaking news. Thunder over the Palatine Hill. Not weather, not politics. Literal thunder from a clear sky. Witnesses near the Temple of Apollo say a crack of sound split the air as a burst of red light surged from the temple's peak. Windows shattered. Doves fell from the sky, dead. The temple has been sealed. Guards are tight-lipped, but one acolyte ran screaming through the streets. "He is awake! He is awake!" Senate scribes are attempting to calm the public. But how do you debate thunder? How do you legislate a sky that screams? The emperor is said to be safe. But safe from what?
From the southern coast, more dread. A Roman fleet returning from a diplomatic visit to Numidia has vanished in full. 20 ships, over 1,000 men. They passed Gibraltar and were gone. No sails on the horizon, no debris on the waves. The lighthouse keeper at Massilia reported seeing a flash like the sun being swallowed. The moment they passed the horizon, then stillness. The sea returned to calm. A boy on the docks asked his father where the ships had gone. The father looked at the sky and said, "Not to war, not to home, somewhere in between." And here we are, caught in that same space.
This may be our last calm hour. Rome has ordered a full assembly of the Praetorian Guard. Not for parade, but for readiness. All gates to the city are under doubled watch. The emperor will not be seen tonight. The augurs have gone silent. No readings, no omens. Just blank scrolls and pale faces. Citizens speak in whispers now, of the return, of the breach, of something older than Jupiter rising beneath the streets. Earlier this hour I passed a child drawing on the stones outside the tabularium. She drew a perfect circle surrounded by flame and said, "It's the old crown, the one that burned first." This is Anderson Revers. Still Rome. But I have started locking my doors. If you're still with us, subscribe. These signals must not vanish into dust. It's 7:59 p.m., and the city's tremble is no longer metaphor. Just before the hour struck, a mild tremor rolled beneath the cobblestones. Pots fell, statues shifted, a fountain cracked open, spilling like a wound. No damage reported beyond minor stonework, but the timing chills the spine. This comes hours after the omen at the Temple of Apollo, and days after the strange withdrawals in Germania. An old senator was seen crossing the Forum barefoot, chanting verses in Greek no one could place. He clutched a scroll from the Sibylline books. When asked what it foretold, he simply replied, that we would forget. Forget what? The quake has passed, but something deeper has not.
In the province of Judea, unrest grows like a second sun. Jerusalem is tense. Roman garrisons are on full patrol, after 3 temples were stormed by groups claiming to speak for the hidden fire. The governor has ordered arrests, but the zealots vanish into the hills, only to return each night. Torches light the hills like teeth surrounding the city. Last evening, a preacher stood atop the Mount of Olives, claiming the empire is already ash, merely unaware. He was taken by guards, but not before hundreds recorded his words in ink, memory and song. And below the city, in the tunnels once carved for water, gatherings whisper by candlelight. They do not chant rebellion, they chant reckoning.
The Senate has issued a decree. Unusual in tone, uncertain in meaning, it reads, "The soul of the Republic endures in the voice of its people, but should silence fall, may memory guide the hand of Rome." No law was passed. No military action announced, just that. Sources suggest the emperor has convened with the Collegium Pontificum, the high priests, behind closed doors. Some say it's for ritual, others contingency. Citizens are beginning to leave the city, not in panic, not yet. But wagons are full, faces are drawn. Rome may stand eternal, but even marble trembles under too much weight.
To the east, where wealth meets fire. In Antioch, strange fires have burned along the city's edge. Not wildfires, not torches. Columns of cold blue flame that burn upward without fuel. They do not spread, they do not consume, but they sing. Locals speak of dreams in which the fires speak languages unknown, languages that feel familiar. A child said he heard his great-grandmother's voice in the crackle. 3 slaves walked directly into the flame and vanished. No bones, no screams, just silence. The governor has sent for scholars from Tarsus and priests from Memphis, but no one approaches now. The fire remains, singing, and Antioch listens.
The sun has set, and with it, so has the illusion of control. Tonight, Rome glows not with celebration, but with guarded flame, torches outside homes, sealed doors, eyes that look not outward, but inward. At the city's edge, a man builds a tower of scrolls. He says the empire will not fall. It will be rewritten. When asked what he'll write, he held up a blank tablet and smiled. Whatever remains. The Praetorians continue to guard the Palatine, not from threat, but from the unknown, for now. This is Anderson Revers, still in Rome, still watching the cracks in the stone. It's 8:31 p.m. The Tiber has turned black. Fishermen along the river's bend report that the waters began to darken just after sundown. First, a dim clouding, then complete opacity. The smell followed shortly after, iron, salt, rot. Fish float belly up by the hundreds, and barges moored along the merchant piers drift aimlessly. Their crews fled. A small boy at the docks cupped the black water in his hands and said, "It's ink. It's writing something." The augurs have refused to comment, but one clerk at the Cloaca Maxima, our great sewer works, said the underground has been rumbling. "Not like flow," he said, "like movement. Whatever flows beneath us now, brothers, does not wish to stay buried."
In Egypt, Ailu. The library burns again, not from fire, but from politics. A faction calling themselves the Daughters of Isis occupied the Serapeium this afternoon. They declared the written word a foreign poison and demanded that papyrus scrolls containing Roman or Greek philosophy be purified. By dusk, over 4,000 scrolls were reduced to ash, including 3 works on medicine that had no copies anywhere in the empire. The governor ordered an immediate response. Legionnaires stormed the temple and cleared it. The daughters did not resist. They simply lay down in silence and waited. One woman whispered to a centurion, "The gods you imported cannot see us." And Alexandria, cradle of knowledge, weeps.
Breaking news. A riot has broken out near the Aventine Gate. It began when rumors spread that the imperial food granaries were being emptied under cover of darkness. Not to feed the city, but to send grain south to Africa. Crowds gathered, voices rose, stones were thrown, and then the flames, shouts of "bread for the dying," echoed through the streets. The cohort stationed at the gate was overwhelmed. Reports say a few legionnaires joined the crowd rather than fight it. One baker, interviewed during the chaos, said, "We keep kneading dough while the roof collapses. The fire is still burning. 3 storehouses gone. No imperial comment yet."
To the west now, Gaul again, where old gods still whisper beneath the soil. In Lugdunum, builders excavating for a new aqueduct struck something strange. A massive slab of stone covered in inscriptions. Not Latin, not Gallic, not Greek. At first, the slab would not move. Then it bled. Not metaphor, not poetry. Real blood. Thick, black and cold. It oozed from the carvings and pooled at the base of the trench. The workers fled. 2 refused to leave, kneeling beside the slab and chanting phrases unknown to them. The site is now under heavy guard. A senator has been sent from Rome to inspect. Locals call it the Sleeping One.
And now as the 9th hour closes, the sound from the Temple of Apollo has returned. But not thunder this time, music. A low, wordless harmony emanates from the sealed chamber, like thousands of voices humming in perfect unison, from beneath stone and time. The city has gone quiet to listen. Birds have stopped mid-flight. Dogs do not bark. Even the fountains pause as if the water itself is listening. One boy stood at the edge of the forum and cried. Not from fear, but from beauty. He said, "This is how the world ends." Not with fire, with song. This is Anderson Revers, still in Rome, still bearing witness to the music in the end. It's 9:07 p.m. Smoke rises from beneath the Senate House. Guards discovered it, not from sight, but scent, a thick, bitter odor of cedar and sulfur. When they opened the lower chambers, they found a single brazier burning in the dark, surrounded by 7 togas folded neatly in a circle. No one knows how it was placed there. No one saw anyone enter. On the wall behind the brazier, a single phrase was carved in crude Greek. "We do not vote on fate." The Senate was evacuated. Some believe it's a warning, others an offering. But as one scribe whispered, what if it's neither? What if it's just the truth?
In the port of Massilia, the sea has turned against the shore. Waves have grown taller than the lighthouse. Not from storm nor tide, but rhythm. As if the ocean itself breathes, slow, deep, deliberate. 3 merchant ships vanished in daylight. No storm, no wreckage, just absence. Fishermen have begun tossing offerings into the surf. Salt, wine, even teeth, hoping to appease whatever now lives beneath. A woman was pulled from the harbour, screaming, "It followed me! It has legs!" Legatus Brutus has ordered torches burned on every pier, every night until the sea calms. But it does not calm, and the fish do not return.
A traveling envoy from Hispania has arrived in chains, not because of crime, but because of what he said upon entering the forum. He shouted, "The eclipse has already happened. The sun we see is memory, and the empire is its ghost." Witnesses say his voice echoed too far, carried too wide, reaching corners of the forum where sound does not travel. The augurs demanded he be gagged. When asked where he came from, the man simply looked skyward and said, "Past the shadow." They say he hasn't blinked since his arrest, and yet at his feet small flowers have begun to grow. In winter.
Breaking report from Carthage. At sunset, every statue in the Temple of Tanit, dozens, some over 3 meters tall, turned inward, facing the temple's central flame. They were not moved, no tool marks, no signs of force, but their feet have fused with the stone. Priests attempted ritual purification, but the smoke would not rise. One acolyte was found, curled in a corner, whispering, "They have heard our silence." A debate now divides the city. Was this a sign of favour or a curse? But in a courtyard nearby, someone scrawled into plaster, "The gods are gathering." But not for us.
The Domus rooftops are lit with candles tonight, not for celebration, not for death, for waiting. Citizens say they feel something approaching, not war, not famine, something else. A vibration in the bones, a whisper in the walls. Children dream of voices calling them by name from inside marble statues. Elders speak of a second founding, not of the Republic, but of memory itself. At the city gates a man plays a flute with no holes, and yet music flows, and yet we listen. This is Anderson Revers. Rome still breathes, but tonight the air is thinner.